Thank you, colleagues. Thank you very much, colleagues. And it is a huge privilege to be here, and even more of a privilege to have my colleagues from the Western Cape Department of Education presenting with me. We have been collaborating this year in the most wonderful and spectacular way, and they have been helping us to prepare our students for the workplace. And that is basically what I'm going to be talking about today, ladies and gentlemen, is how do we make sure that our students are ready for the workplace, and where does the library fit into this, and where does research fit into that? Just an overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to look at what are the research requirements that we have in our undergraduate courses. Also, what courses do we offer, or do we offer courses in information literacy? What is required in the workplace? Do we expect research in the classroom? Do we have where does further studies of teachers fit in? Do we match these requirements, and what would be our way forward? That's just a short overview of what we will be dealing with today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start off with the undergraduate BEd curriculum, which is offered at CPUT. We offer this qualification in the foundation phase, which is grades R to grade 3, then the intermediate phase, grade 4 to grade 8, and our senior phase and FET phase, grade 9 to grade 12. So in all of these programs, in the undergraduate programs, we basically focus on the different types of knowledge, starting with academic and research knowledge, which is foregrounded here. It's part and it's embedded within all our courses. We also obviously focus on pedagogical content knowledge, on professional knowledge of the classroom itself, the classroom knowledge, and we also follow the system of continuous assessment throughout all our programs. So when we look at academic skills, there we have also been very privileged that we've been working very closely with our librarians. I'm now just speaking for the Wellington campus, where Mrs. Arends and Mrs. Oosthuizen are playing a pivotal role in helping us with our students, offering some of the courses in our professional studies courses, where we offer information skills as a part of our undergraduate program. Academic writing is infused, especially in the first year, and then scaffolded throughout all 4 years, where we look at important aspects that our students still battle with, such as plagiarism, writing skills. How do they write? How do they write an assignment? How do they write? How do they even answer an exam paper? And most of all, ladies and gentlemen, critical thinking. Critical thinking is one of our graduate attributes, but not only that, it's also in the CAPS curriculum, as our colleague from the WCED will tell you about. It's part of what the children must be taught in the classroom. So our students cannot teach them what they have not experienced. So it's an important part of our courses. So when we look at the current reality, I just did a quick little Google survey to find out, do our students write enough assignments? Do they do enough research? And I found that in most of the years, there are only about 2 to 3 assignments across the courses. Some students, and then it also differs. I think they're also not sure what is research and what is not research. I know in the 4th year maths course, the students do a full-on research project with a theoretical framework. They collect data from when they are at the schools. They use this, they write a paper. But in most of the other assignments that they do, they go to the library or they go online, they do research. And then what we have to teach them is what sources are valid, what sources are trustworthy. One of the speakers was speaking this morning about how do we make sure that our students know what to trust and what not, with all the theories and conspiracy theories out there, and what sources are reliable. And in many of these cases, the students didn't even have to go to the library because or look for their articles online, because during COVID, the students were at home. So many lecturers would provide the articles on our learning management system, which we know Blackboard. They would put the articles already on Blackboard. The students just had to read through the articles. So that research is actually, the research component is lacking in that sense. What I also found was that these assignments don't always relate, they're not really related to one another. So that's something that we will have to think of in the new year when we revise our curriculum, look at what have we brought in, how can we change it, how can we make the link clearer to our students, and how can we, I find that there's a bit of a lack of coherence throughout, and also in the scaffolding of the projects. I know we started off a couple of years and we said in the first year, a foundation must be laid for the students on which to build their research skills until we get to the 4th year so that they are ready for the honours course. And I'm not sure that that is happening. It is also obviously due to what we've experienced the last 3 years with our students being isolated and being online. So as I said, we need a more integrated approach. We need more revision of our program. So what are the challenges that we experience with this? Obviously, we have large classes. We have large classes, lecturers have heavy teaching loads, and that makes it difficult to really give enough attention and credit to specific assignments, writing, rewriting, editing, having the students edit one another's work so that they can have that process of revision. They have a very full curriculum. They have about, I think, if I think of the intermediate phase, 2nd year, they have something like 10 or 12 subjects. They have a lot of subjects. They go out on practice teaching, and some of them really need more advanced research skills. Even with plagiarism, there was an incident the other day with one of my colleagues. They did an online test, and the students copied and pasted from different sources into the test, and the lecturer obviously penalized them, and they were really offended because they said, but they did all this work. They went online and they found these good answers. And one question was a bit, you had to think for yourself, and the one student came and complained to me and said, that was such an unfair question. She couldn't even find it anywhere on Google. So unfair. So we have these situations where our students really do not understand what proper research is. And as I said, they might have this perceived value of the skills. They think they are doing research. But even in some of their presentations that my students did this week, they had to do themes in English on a novel called The Hate You Give. And I saw all these same themes come to the fore. They've all obviously used the same guides that they found somewhere online. What we need is more communication between our lecturers, and hopefully that we can bring that in as well next year, so that lecturers can talk to one another and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. How can our research assignments link? How can we make sure that we cover everything that we want to? Because we tend to be each on our own islands, and that's just one of the challenges that I've experienced. But ladies and gentlemen, with this, I'm going to hand over to Portia to tell us more about what do they want and how do we need to get there from the school side. Thank you, Portia.
Thanks, Hanli. So imagine this scenario. You have the student now entering the world of work as a novice teacher. What does that person now have to do? What do they take with them from being a student and what they were taught into the classroom, becoming the teacher? And it is incredible for them to do that mind shift, because now they become the gatekeeper. Because, it's about educating and teaching learners, many of whom know nothing about technology. So it depends on where the teacher finds themselves. In the Western Cape, we have 8 education districts, 4 of them in rural areas, and the other 4 situated in the metros. And you'll find that schools in the metro districts are very clued up when it comes to technology. But it's the child in the deep rural school that really has to be taught and has to be exposed to technology with purpose. Now, with a plethora of information available at the teacher's fingertips, information literacy skills are more critical now than ever before. You, I'm sure, have heard of information literacy in various forms. But for the teacher who comes in now having to focus on a myriad of things when it comes to the learner and developing a holistic learner, it now is a thing where my research has to be more reflective. What I would like to do with my learners has to be insightful. And also I need to be aware of everything that is lurking out there in the far corners of the internet. So the role of the student has evolved to such an extent now that they, within the blink of an eye, have to become knowers of technological aspects that could influence a child positively or negatively. So what are the kinds of questions this teacher now has to ask themselves? Is information literacy important for my learners? What learning bottlenecks might the learners experience when it comes to finding information? How can I effectively help my learners to access those portals in a safe way and yet also walk away learning, having learned something, having experienced something positive? So colleagues, the application of research skills acquired in university is excellent, it's good, it's solid. However, there needs to be a mind shift when the teacher accesses or enters his or her classroom. Then the same skills can be incorporated in teaching. However, it needs to be pitched at the learner's level of understanding. Then also, information literacy should be all around in the classroom. In other words, there should be a reading corner. These are the things we preach, we advocate when we visit schools. We would like to see a little mini library in your class. If you do not have that, a little reading box. But literacy should be everywhere, because teaching languages is an immersive activity. You need to immerse the child in that. So, you know, it's not just about literacy online or what you can learn online using a computer, but it really is the hard copy that comes into play as well. And it's important that the teacher is able to discern between those things and be able to be a creative navigator of education in the classroom so that learners are exposed to both. Then also the effective use of resources. And remember, this is another thing we say, it's a resource is not it. That is not the teacher. It is an aid. It's a crutch. It's a support so that the teacher can bring learning, the learning experience to life for the child. Then also knowledge of internet, the internet sources and portals where you can find information should be demystified for the child so that they become independent in how to navigate their way there safely. The WCD has an e-portal. The e-portal provides support for teachers, for learners, for parents. It advocates a myriad of resources that can be incorporated in teaching. We find that teachers use it, but not as extensively as we would like them to. It's also a place where we share best practice and we share resources that could possibly work in any kind of classroom. So those are the things that we do have in place when it comes to information on the internet. Then going beyond the textbook is important. You have to bring your teaching alive. Remember I said earlier, the textbook is merely an aid. It is not the lesson. It is not the task. It is not the skill. It's a guide to getting to the next point where the child can independently participate in an activity to develop themselves competently and confidently. Now think about this, the novice teacher and research. What does that relationship look like? Now, the teacher can be in a space where they can do it for personal development, where they're wanting to improve on their skills, on their qualifications. Then you've got the conceptualization of, okay, how do I take the research and actually make it part of my teaching and learning, right? So it's conceptualizing research in the classroom. Very important. So it means then our students who enter the classroom need to be confident in understanding their role as a teacher. Are they the gatekeeper? Are they the blockage? Are they the bottleneck? Or are they the opener of the gate so that learners can access the portal confidently? So understanding, conceptualizing where they are in research. Then implementation comes in two ways. Do I implement what I've researched and I've interpreted into improving my abilities, my capacity as a teacher? Or do I use it to analyze data so that I can become a better teacher? Do I utilize it when my learners have completed an assessment and I look at their academic performance, the marks they've achieved, the grades, and does that inform the way I plan my lessons going forward? So how do I utilize the ability to do research? Remember, when you are seated and you're working with students, it is very broad. Where I am seated and I work with teachers, it can go one of two ways. It can be for personal development, professional development, or it can be to enhance my teaching and make it more strategic so that I can make provision for a struggling learner, a learner who at the age of 15 struggles to read with comprehension. So therein lies the conundrum as to defining my role as a researcher. It is important to understand that the teacher has a fundamental role to play in both aspects. And as you would know, there's a myriad and different types of research methodologies out there. Popular types that we implement or we promote at school level would be action research, would be self-study. That is a very important one. Would be lesson preparation, because that in itself is a reflective activity. It is design-based research, amongst others. And my favorite, my personal favorite, would be metacognition of teaching and learning. Now, why do teachers need to engage in research? We all know that. I mean, it's written on the wall. It's to help find solutions to particular issues in the classroom. It's to underpin professional learning, opportunities and knowledge and skills and understanding. And I can go on and on about that. But you know what it really means for the teacher in the classroom? The metacognition cycle and the power of that. It lies in the will to do introspection. It lies in the mindset of being a lifelong learner. And if I follow the principles of introspection and wanting to evolve and wanting to be stronger as a teacher, then I need to reflect. I need to apply tenacity in the field of education because it's an ever-changing space. And if you want to be at the cutting edge of your profession, you have to be involved in continuous research. You have to be open-minded about new ideas, new perspectives, new opinions, because it's ever-changing. Why is that? Because our children are ever-changing. The child I was in a classroom many years ago is very different to the child we have in a classroom right now. The concentration span, let's start with that, very limited. And they need to be kept interested all the time. So how does the teacher do that? They need to be mindful of the role that they play in that, in shaping, in molding that child. Because remember, that child that the novice teacher now is teaching could ultimately become the student in your class. So it's a cycle that is perpetuated. So if the teacher applies their teaching and their expertise with metacognition by continuously evaluating the strengths and the weaknesses of their teaching approach, their methodologies or their preparation, and they apply strategies that links to the context of the child, then I can guarantee you our teachers will be competent and confident practitioners in the field of education. But let's not stop there. Let's take you a little bit closer to what happens in the classroom. And my colleague Joey now will share with us what the 21st century looks like. Thank you.
Thanks, Portia. Well, I was already introduced as a radio presenter, so I'm assuming I must use my radio presenter voice then. Colleagues, thank you very much. I'm in a house where there's a 4-year-old. Okay, so I'm taking you back into your own houses if you have these 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, maybe 12-year-olds. How much have you learned from them? How much research have you done? Because with this 4-year-old, I every day find there's something new happening. Every day. So, you know, whether it is Anki, I can switch the TV to mommy because mommy watches her own stuff and Anki has his own part of the channel. So what happens is if I put it on, it'll be blue because blue is Joey and that's what Joey watches. So it is all recorded to what Joey wants. Orange is my mother, who is his ma, and ma watches certain things. So when he watches what he wants, because he's the purple one, he can come out of purple, navigate his way all the way to orange, switch on what mommy wants to watch on live TV, not the pre-recorded shows, and then he'll sit back and say to me, Anki, ma's watching TV. And then he knows that's the calm time of the day, because if ma watches TV, everyone's okay. And he also received a tablet for his birthday the other day. And I wanted to do some research to see how long will it take for him to be able to navigate himself on this thing. I gave it to him deliberately. I didn't want to keep him back. I know everyone's like, oh, tablet at 4. Well, there's a lot still that he doesn't know about it. So thank heavens for that. I've done all the good things. I've made sure it's on parental stuff. So something moves and I'm at work, my phone goes off and I'm like, it says, oh, Alex did this. And I phoned my mother. I said, take that tablet away. So there's a lot of communication, but there's research done. There's a lot that's happening. So at the moment, he can switch it on. It's got one of those codes that you have to put in. He puts the code in himself. He can take it from the desktop to YouTube Kids, and then from there to whatever he wants to watch. And also YouTube Kids is only for between ages of, I think, 2 and 8. I think that's how I did it. So that's happening. But as an educator, and I might be sitting in an office now, but I'm still an educator, you know, born an educator, always an educator. As a teacher, I notice how things will change within the next 2 years. I'm already thinking, what's going to be next? What's going to be next? Because he already got his tablet, he got his bicycle with the 4 wheels. I'm sure the next thing he's going to say to me is, take these other 2 off. They're wasting my time. So I need to be a step ahead of him at all times. As any parent would say, you need to be a step ahead of your children at all times. So before they even ask, you say, nope, not happening. But I didn't say anything, I know what you're thinking. So it's about that research. We know where we're going. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to this. Because exactly that is what is expected of our teachers in the classroom. We preach this all the time. We preach it all the time where we say, do you know the client? Do you know the customer? Who is the customer? And if you walk into that grade 4 class, the class of 10-year-olds, do you know what they are about? Because the last thing I want to hear as an educational leader is that your response is, I don't know. I'm almost 49. How must I know? No, do some research so that you do know. And that is why it's so important that we need to understand. I need to understand, who am I teaching? And what are they about? Before I start with what Portia said earlier about the lesson preparation, all of that, I need to know who I'm teaching. And that is absolutely fundamental. So when we look at the learner that's out there today, and I might be describing some of your children, nephews, or nieces. So these kids, as they are now, these children, will master content while they produce. So little Alex will walk around with his tablet, and I don't understand why he does that, but he can walk around the whole complex with this thing and everything's happening, or he'll watch TV and the tablet. I don't know how they do that, but they do. He's mastering content while he's producing, while there's synthesizing and they're evaluating information. He understands that the volume can't be too high. I didn't say that. I didn't say put the TV softer. He says to me when I watch rugby, Anki, volume. And I say, volume what? He goes, too loud. Sorry, Alex. And then I drop it. So it's this ever-changing, and it's not things that we put in him. We just wake up and we say, wow, it's happened. We don't know how it happened, but it's happening because of that little thing called the tablet. Because you see, when he watches whatever he watches, I don't know what's the favorite this week. It might be Paw Patrol. It might be, I don't know which one, Peg a Pig or something. But he watches this and he sees characters do certain things, and he then understands what is happening in life because that's where his reference is. That's his reference. Now, as an educator and as a teacher, I come to university, and every novice teacher can tell you this. You come out of university, you hit the school the first day, and you just want to turn around at the end of the day and say, I'm going back to varsity. Because literally what they taught me, I think I still need a few years. Because it feels like what's happening in the reality out there is not happening in the class when I sat with Professor so-and-so, and they were telling me about all these beautiful theories, and I was like, wow, I'm going to write an exam on this. This is amazing. But I got into the class and I was like, what happened to Vygotsky? Where did he go? Because this is not happening here. And the point is, if I go back now, I'll say, no, I can see where Vygotsky came in because now I understand it. But at the time when I was there, it was like it didn't make sense. So the point is, we are trying to even talk to teachers at the point where we say, research is important. You can't just let it go. The time when you get that beautiful thing from CPUT and you walk off and they hit you on the head. They don't hit you, they put something on your head. I've always wondered what they say. And so at UCT, I said to the dean, could they please do it slower because I want to hear, because I've seen it goes quickly. And it was just congratulations. I was so disappointed. I was expecting my life story. But anyway, so, you know, that's what they do. They master, but we also want them to have an understanding of the understanding and respect of diverse cultures. So little Alex is growing up in a world where there's no color, where there's no creed, there's no nothing. It's just kids playing. Alex's favorite friend is Emma. And Emma is 3.5 years old. It's not my job to say to him, no, stay away from Emma. I've watched Emma's dad though. I think he's a bit worried, but they need to just grow. They need to grow. That's what they need to do. The expectation for me of the novice teachers to go in there and let the kids grow. So what do we do as teachers? This is confession time, eh? I know I'm online as well. It's confession time. We box them. This is the box. This is how education looks. Sit here. This is it. Meanwhile, I already know. I feel sorry for whoever's going to teach Alex because there's no box. There's no box for him in my house. Then, you know, the 3 R's, and I laugh about that because everyone says arithmetic. Yeah, no, it's arithmetic. It's 3 R's. So we want them to be able to write. They must be able to count. We want them to read. That's what we want them to do. So teacher, I'm novice. What is it that I need to do in this class? I want my kids to read. They must write and they must count. That's what they must do. So focus on that. What kind of research must I do to be able to do that for them? Then the creativity, the communication, collaboration. I've got to work with my friends next door. I've got to work with the teachers teaching them as well. Because if I'm hot and they cold, the kids will never go to their class. They'll run past their class. Why? Because there's something they're missing. So we need to continuously evaluate how we do things. We need to demonstrate digital literacy and civic responsibility. Our teachers, I can tell you now, we were engaging the other day with the 4th year students of CPUT and Mowbray, CPUT Mowbray and Wellington campus. There's no issues there with the digital literacy. Nee, I love it fun digital. They're everywhere. But do they have the responsibility on how to work with it? question. So that is where we go. So the civic responsibility, I've got this information, but how do I information in my community? And then here, all these virtual tools, Portia said earlier, it's just it's a way to get somewhere. It can't be the it. Because in some places they say that's the it. It can't be the it. It's a way to get to what I want to achieve. So what is it that we have in our classrooms that our teachers may work on or be able to do? Portia mentioned the action research. Think like researchers every day. It took me, and I can talk about it now. It took me getting to becoming a subject advisor and then going into head office to start thinking like a researcher. Because now suddenly I'm thinking academics, how they write things, how does that fit into what we're doing now? But now my brain is at that level. As a teacher, I may not have given that as much attention as I think teachers should do. Interpret information in context. I love the word interpret, because interpret information is important. If I read something, I will probably make 4 different stories out of it. Maybe that's the reason why I'm in radio. It's because I see something and I see something behind it, or I ask questions on it. Analyze assessment data. You can ask Portia, my colleague, if it's anything to do with numbers. I say, just give it here. Leave me alone. Do whatever you need to do. I'll do something with this, because I see the analysis of assessment data as so crucial to guide us on where we want to go. So that's the conversation with teachers. So this is what your learners gave you in the assessment. Yeah, this is what they gave you. How are we going to now take what they gave us and impact next time? Because they may have given us 0 out of 10, for example. How do we get them to 10 out of 10? There must be a process that's happening. I've got to do some research. I've been missing the boat the whole time. I'm not teaching to the level of the child. Why am I not teaching to the level of the child? Do research so I can understand. Then there's no such thing in education as just putting a problem on the table. You come with the solution of the problem. So I said, this is the solution for the problem. Oh, was that the problem? Oh, we didn't know. But you can't just come with the problem, because otherwise, you're just thinking till here. We want you to think over there. So here's the problem, but how do we solve the problem? Then, colleagues, professional development. Portia mentioned it earlier. There's so much opportunity for our teachers out there. A lot of opportunities. Personal, you want to grow, you want to be better. Some people want to be M.Ed students, D.Ed students. They want to be at that level. Others just want to be master teachers. 40 years of teaching grade 7, and everybody will come past them and say, morning, sir, because they know what they have in you. And you do research to be able to get to that level. You didn't just become 40 years like that. You did a lot of work. So you do research often, and even in your own classroom context. These 40 learners I have, do I know all of them? Because each of them is a book. Each of them is a research little title that you're going to be working with. And then there's all these short courses that we have on our continuous teacher professional development that SACE has brought in. And teachers now have to accrue points. So you get 150 over 3 years, so you have to make sure you continuously doing something, because by the end of your 3 years, you'll be over 150 points. I know what the question will be. Are you going to get money for it? It's not about money. It's about getting better as a person and as a teacher in our system. And our education system in South Africa changes every second. Ask Portia, Portia, every minute, every second. So what is the way forward, colleague? Where are we? And this is amazing that we are able to share the platform with Professor Hanli Dippenaar, who we've been working with for the last 6-7 months on how we will enhance or help the education department at CPUT give us this teacher that the WCED needs at this moment in time, because they are the engine room. They give us all the teachers in the Western Cape. So we just want to make sure that those teachers are top-notch, close to perfect, Prof, or they can be perfect. I'm happy with that too. So future teachers need to prepare for the world of work. I set my example. You come in as a novice teacher, you go, oh! And you say, why didn't they teach me this at varsity? So now we're saying to Prof Dippenaar, to everybody else in education, put them at that level, push them there, give them the literacy where they can read. So if I'm saying to the librarians all over the campus that teachers need to read about the reality of what's happening in the class, or they need to have videos or something, then that must be there so that they can really say, okay, That's what it is. If I go to teaching prac, now I know A, B, C, D, E, and I can do that. Expose them to research and information literacy skills and call it what it is. Let them know this is what it is. We've got a thing in education where we call things other names. We call things other names, and then suddenly someone says something, you're like, what does that mean? And they explain, you're like, oh yeah, no, we've got that. So call it what it is, and we can also call it what it is. Prof spoke about CAPS. CAPS is our curriculum. If we ask some students, they go, CAPS curriculum, what's in the curriculum? What does it consist of? Do we know it's 4 or 5 different policies? That kind of stuff. We would like to produce graduates who are able to apply the skills in the workplace. So what they got from CPUT is what they are actually going to use when they go into the class. Whether it is 40, 50, or 60 learners, they will be able to do that. And in our conversations with Prof. Dippenaar, we said, so there is space for the research, but let's start working them from first year. Let them do stuff. Many at the 4th year, bombard them with a lot of research. No, let them do it and tell them this is research, because now they go, oh, this is research. So they don't walk into a library and they go, when I was told research, I was like, 10 hours of sitting in the library reading books. No, research happens around us all the time. So we need to just make sure that they understand it. Then communication between stakeholders. What can we say about that? So I think all our librarians and people with knowledge who are in this room understand where this the content skills comes from. We want to have, I say, the sweet spot. You want to go in the middle there, but you've got media, you've got digital, new literacies, academic literacies. Now, once we go into the classroom, we neglect this one because we think it's not important, but it is so important. It is so important. We get many schools, and Portia mentioned earlier, our learners who might be sitting out in Koa Bokkerveld, which is just other side Ceres, there on the mountain, they might be struggling to get media literacy because there are all kinds of challenges. But we need to expose. That's our responsibility as a department to make sure that our learners are getting that information. So information literacy, ladies and gentlemen, allows us to cope with the data smog. I like that word. There's a lot of stuff happening here, but it equips us with the necessary skills to recognize when we need information, where to locate that information, and how to use it effectively and efficiently. That is what it's about. So I'm very grateful that we were given the opportunity to be here, because Tata Madiba, as you know, said, be a lifelong student, read as many books as possible. Thank you.